just say I really like the lighting in my brother's room. Shall this be my new filming space? And welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. My name is Salva and today I'm going to be doing a book review on A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. So I left this video off for too long in the day that the sun went down and started angling its way through the window where I usually film, and then it would poke me in the eye and then do those weird window patterns on my face. Anyway, all that meant is that it was not a viable place for me to film today, so I scurried on into my brother's room and this is where we're doing the review today. Also, in addition to stealing my brother's room, I also stole his shirt for this video just because like the heroine was British, so I was like, sure, British flag. For the release of A Deadly Education, which came out earlier this month, I partnered up with Penguin Random House and Fully Booked, which is a local bookstore here in the Philippines, and they did a first impressions feature on their blog, and I'm gonna leave a link down below for you guys to check that out. First things first, I want to get some general housekeeping out of the way. If you have been in the book community on Twitter or Instagram in the past 2 to 3 weeks, then you'll know that there has been controversy surrounding this book, so I'm just gonna leave a link down below to the issues at hand and the author's statement in case you want to catch up and educate yourself as to what is going on surrounding this book. Moving on to the actual book itself, if you're a fan of Roald Dahl, sort of, you know, that morbid, funny humor, but it's gross, but it's funny, and you're like, oh, look at those Oompa Loompas go. Isn't it funny? The children are dying. I don't know, it's weird. Honestly, had it not been for how attached I'd gotten to the heroine in this book, I probably would have been really scared of this book, even more than like a proper horror novel. I feel very squeamish about that very niche genre. So if you're a fan of Tim Burton or Roald Dahl, you know, that's kind of eccentric, macabre kind of vibe, definitely consider picking this up. Personally, I had never encountered that kind of storytelling in fiction much before. I think the only thing I can think of is Adam Silvera talking about The Hobbit and how J.R.R. Tolkien took like 2 pages to describe a tree. Like his entire prologue is just on the backstory of hobbits, but it doesn't further the plot, it just talks about hobbits and the expansive world building that he did. So I feel like that is similar to what is going on with the storytelling in A Deadly Education. Do you know those spin-off books, like when there are big franchises and then they come out with an omnibus, or even movies like Jurassic Park? Sorry, I was just watching the 2 Jurassic World movies, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. Do you know those books that come out like when the movie comes out and it's like an encyclopedia of dinosaurs, an encyclopedia of Transformers? I don't know, I never saw the Transformers movies. Those companion books, that's what this book felt like. It felt like an encyclopedia of this world that Naomi Novik created. It's not plot heavy, it's a lot of establishing the world building. I happen to like those companion books a lot, but if that's not for you, then you have to know that before you go into this book. I feel like this whole thing was a setup for a sequel because she spends most of her time painting the picture of this world where there are wizards and witches who exist, and they're always at risk because there are these monsters called the Maleficaria. Does anybody remember the show Real Monsters on Nickelodeon? They're like that kind of monsters. They're just ugh. So no, they're not sexy monsters. Looking at you, sexy YA. And they're always at risk because these things thrive on magical energy, and they are especially attracted to witches and wizards who are going through puberty. So because these teenage wizards are constantly at risk, they get sent off to a magical school called the Scholomance. There are wards that keep the monsters out, but sometimes they're not strong enough and the monsters come in, so they've got to be on their guard 24/7, 365. It's not like in most magic books where every young witch or wizard is guaranteed a spot. It's really a lot more political in this book. If you belong to an enclave in a major city, I don't know how to describe it other than a country club of powerful wizards and witches. Usually major cities have these, so like the New York enclave, the London enclave, the Dubai enclave, and if you are an enclaver, then you're almost guaranteed a spot. They sort of have like charity case spots for those kids who didn't grow up in the enclave, and that is our heroine, Elle. She didn't grow up in an enclave. She lives in a commune with her mom, and they live in a yurt, and her mom doesn't charge for her magic, and she's very like free-spirited, peace and love. The magic system in this book really reminded me of, you know, video games. You know, sometimes in games you have to wait like 6 hours for your energy bars to replenish, or you have to be able to have this much XP to be able to perform this kind of task. That's what the magic system is like in this book. You have to work up enough energy or mana to be able to cast your spells, and that becomes very valuable because there are only a few tasks that can guarantee you earning enough mana, and you can store them in crystals or or in watches, or you can share them with other students. But then there's this other magic source called the Malia. They don't earn the energy bars in the video game metaphor, they just steal it. It does get a little bit confusing at times, so if you're the kind of person who likes, you know, to have your magic systems very laid out and in a grid and very neat, I'm usually one of those people, so it took me a while to get on board with the magic system in this book. But after I started thinking about it as like, oh, it's like a video game, then it made much more sense. So Elle is our heroine, short for Galadriel, and that is, yes, from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. She is grumpy and cantankerous and rude and mean to everyone she meets. A lot of people I saw like online were turned off by that, but I just loved it. I'm tired of heroines on their moral high horses wanting to be perfect and saving the day and being a hero and doing the right thing. It was refreshing to see a heroine who was just like, dude, I'm just trying to not die. And at the same time, slowly throughout the book, she does understand what it's like to rely on other people and to work together. So I really loved her character arc in this book. I can't wait to see where the next book will take us because her character arc ends on such a cliffhanger. So another thing about Elle that you guys need to know is that it was prophesied. What is the real word? There was a prophecy made about her. There was a prophecy made about her when she was young that she would bring chaos and destruction onto the world, and that's why when she goes to school, everyone's like, nope, not gonna be friends with you. That sort of is what works into her being grumpy and cranky and not having a lot of friends. I low-key want her to be bad and then good. Like, give us a good redemption arc. I feel like this is another case of Princess Edelyn syndrome. I don't know if you guys ever read the Selection series, but there was a spin-off after like the main trilogy that was about the daughter, Princess Edelyn. 99.9% hated her, and I was like, I like her. So I feel like that was the case with this book too. But my biggest issue with this book is that I didn't know who it was written for. A lot of the problems that Elle, our heroine, was going through seemed to be metaphors for, you know, just not fitting in. So it felt very YA in that sense, like, oh, she doesn't fit in, she doesn't know how to make friends, everyone puts her into a stereotypical box and she doesn't know how to break out of it. And at the same time, this book had really vulgar language. Like, she drops the F-bomb so many times, and then the overarching themes were a bit more adult. And apparently in the acknowledgements of the author, which I read because I'm a dork, she also said a specific thank you for helping me figure out who this book was written for. So it seems like she was struggling too. That I think was my biggest issue. Like, who is this for? I really don't know. The pacing of this book, you either hate it or love it. It's a very slow-paced book. Like I said, a lot of it is setting up the world. Again, other people might not, but I've never found anything wrong with a slow burn. That's a Casey Musgraves reference. When will she release an album? I miss her. I think this book was less exciting and more stressful. They could die in the next second. So I think the author was able to capture that sort of sense of danger of, oh my gosh, we are constantly in the Hunger Games, only the people attacking us are not people, they're monsters. There weren't a lot of like, ha ha action scenes, but it was more of like, you know, those scenes that make you like scratch and you're like chewing your nails and you're like, oh my gosh, when will they graduate, because they just need to get out of this school. That's another thing that I'm looking forward to in the sequel. I think Naomi Novik was able to paint the outside world of the world she's built really vividly, and I kind of want to learn more about that. I want to go out in the world. So I'm hoping that the series being titled The Scholomance isn't going to hinder us from seeing more of the world she's built, and I'm hoping that the sequel will take us through to graduation and that there's this big bad world out there for us to explore. So I never know how to end these reviews anymore ever since I stopped putting spoilers. In summation, is that what people do in like class when they give a presentation? I don't know, I haven't been in school in so long, guys. To summarize, if you're a fan of Tim Burton and Roald Dahl, check this out. If you are a fan of Tolkien and his very descriptive world building, check this out. If you like cranky heroines who aren't on moral high horses, check this out. I'm definitely curious to see where the characters will go from here because we were left on quite a cliffhanger and there was a statement and we weren't given an answer as to why that statement was made, so I think we'll find out in the sequel. So ever since filming my most anticipated releases for the rest of 2020 videos and having to edit that and hearing myself say, I'm so excited for this book, so excited, oh my god, I'm so excited. I've tried to make a conscious effort to say that word less. So am I excited for this sequel? I look forward to it. That's a synonym I can use. But that about does it for my book review of A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. You can follow me in my other bookish adventures on Twitter and Instagram. I'm both at Cuckoo for Books. Please subscribe and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys!